Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another special edition of the Horror Hangout, the podcast where we talk about the best and worst of the horror genre. And sometimes, when we get very lucky, we get to chat to some people bringing new horrors to your screens. I am Andy Conduit-Turner, and I'm here today with Addison Heimann, the director of a film we've been talking about a bit recently on the show, Touch Me. Addison, how you doing?
I'm well, or good. I don't know why I said well because I never say well, even though it's like grammatically correct. Like it just feels better to say good, but I'm good. You didn't need that preamble, but here we are.
This is what we're here for. This is the experience people come to podcasting for. You don't get this on
Yeah.
MTV or whatever's happening on television these days.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. MTV, the most popular channel right now.
We're young,
Um,
we're relevant, we are in the
yes.
zone.
Yeah. Gonna get MTV News in 4 seconds and then another NSYNC music video. Um,
Oh, those were the days. Halcyon times.
who were the days?
Addison, thank you so much for taking some time to catch up with me. As I mentioned up top, Ben and I, my co-host, we were lucky enough by the by the good graces of the publicity folks that you're working with, were able
Mhm.
to catch Touch Me. I don't mind
Oh,
saying to your face, it got straight onto my top 10 movies of this year. I
oh
was so
wow, that's so
excited.
kind. Oh
It's
my God.
a wonderful and exciting movie, which I cannot wait for more people to catch up and
Oh,
see. Before we
thank
dive
you.
into Touch Me itself, though,
Yeah.
let's see what touched you in your past to get you into genre filmmaking and horror.
Oh, yeah, man. It's like a long and circuitous road, but also not really. 'Cause I'm gay, I'm a millennial, so what did I first watch when I was growing up? It is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, of course, and The X-Files, and we can expand the genre like with like Star Trek Voyager was the other one, like love Kate Mulgrew. And I would watch that stuff with my dad, and we didn't really get along because I was his gay son who he wanted to be a basketball star, and I wanted to make like fun plays, but we did bond over television, and that was kind of what started it. Fast forward, I was like an actor and a playwright in college, and then I just was writing really weird stuff. Like I wrote a play about dragons. And everybody was like, "You can't do this, Addison." And I was like, you're right. But it really wasn't until because I was really like a lot of my stuff was primarily science fiction and fantasy, or like, send-ups of like, Buffy-esque stuff. And then, to be honest, I had a mental breakdown. And my mental breakdown ended up being the topic for my first movie, which was a horror film called Hypochondriac. And we made that right after the pandemic. So my true first, like, deep dive into the horror genre was in the pandemic, where I watched like 500 horror films over the course of however fucking long we were stuck inside. And that became my film school. And, I did everything from like, the classics of American cinema to, Giallo to, J-horror and Korean horror and Thai horror and Indonesian horror to French horror to, Latin American and South American horror, and kind of got like the great, like the giant scope of like what existed within the zeitgeist of horror. And the thing I found to be so fascinating is like we like to think of this time in like 2012. It's like imagine where you were. Hereditary just came out. A24 is on the top of their game for like $5 million movies, and we're introduced to this idea of elevated horror, which is about something. But the reality is like the horror fans know it's like every horror movie is about trauma and about grief and about overcoming things. Like, take for example the like, even like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like, you have these things that exist in the zeitgeist that are about kind of stuff. And I love the fact that horror was able to get in on the side to talk about certain issues while still being entertaining, like a bloody good time, funny, weird, scary, and yet at the core of it, like you leave the movie theater and you're just like that was dealing with like grief, or that was dealing with like PTSD from war, or that was dealing with overcoming your own anxiety in order to like be a better person, or like, man, that person really hates society. Like it is all encompassing. And I find it very, very fucking exciting. And I really love the space and I will forever be in it.
Wonderful. I mean, talking about all those horror movies that you hit during that, breezy lockdown period we had, I know
Yeah.
if Ben ever needs to take a sabbatical, I know I'm asking to come and co-host with me for a while.
Yeah.
You've got the background sorted.
Yeah, I love what I found fascinating is like, much like everything, like, if social media divides us, like film brings us together, and it's this like kind of ritual of like empathy. And I love horror, especially from other countries and cultures, because it's so fascinating to see what is like across the spectrum scary to the human race, and like culturally what scares this specific group of people. And like for the majority of the like English speaking or European speaking world, a lot of it is religion. But
Mhm.
then like, you get into like Asian horror, and like there are things that are scary that like, you would never have thought like previously, and like there are different types of religious horror that they have, whether it's like through Buddhism or Taoism, or any of the plethora of religions over there. And it's just so cool to learn that way. And in a way, it creates this kind of universal language amongst the horror community, because it allows us to not only learn about another culture and see what scares them, but also realize that like we're very similar. We're more similar than we're not.
Yeah, like such wonderful examples, which you have gone and added to. By my admission, I've not seen Hypochondriac yet. Is
Oh, bad
as
okay.
soon as I saw Touch Me, it got straight on to the never-ending watch list. But yeah, the first piece of your work that we were lucky enough to encounter was Touch Me when it was
Hmm.
sent across to us, and what a phenomenal first thing to see of a piece of work. We're gonna dive into a few bits and pieces about it, but for
Yeah,
those who haven't heard us talk about it before, or haven't seen any of the marketing material for it, I'm gonna take my very best shot as a pitch and synopsis, and you can correct me anything
please.
I miss.
No, no, I love
So-
this because there's some people are like, "What's it about?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you think it's about?" Or like, how do you describe it?
So for me, Touch Me is a story of two close friends who are living in a 2020s economy together, and they encounter um, it's no secret, it's in your synopsis, a
Mm-mm.
narcissistic alien
Yep.
who has a euphoric touch, addictive like a class A drug, and they are drawn into kind of the web of a relationship with him, and they go away and spend a weekend with him at his fabulous, fabulous complex that he lives in, and adventures ensue.
Yes, that's great. That's a very good non-spoiler way of putting it. Yeah, that's essentially what it is.
Yeah,
I usually say bisexual alien sex horror comedy, about two best friends who become addicted to the sexual touch of an alien that makes your anxiety and depression disappear when you fuck it. So
if
basically, you just
only.
did the same thing that I said, so you pretty much got it on the money.
Well, shows I'm paying attention, if nothing else.
True.
Um, so I mean, where to even begin? I tell you what, let us begin by talking
Yeah.
about the tremendous cast you have
Yes. Oh, yeah.
put together here.
Yeah.
Nuanced performances, they're funny, they're intense. The
Hmm.
opening scene with Olivia talking down
Yeah.
the barrel of the camera,
Hmm.
um, a great emotional opening delivery.
Yeah.
I watch a lot, Addison. Like this week
Yeah.
alone, I've been to see Lee Cronin's The Mummy. By extension, I
Mhm.
went to watch something called Tales of the Mummy, which is available free on YouTube. It was called Talos the Mummy in the 90s when we were around. Um, very different, a very brilliant 90s movie. I
Yeah.
can usually watch, and a few seconds in, I know what kind
Yeah.
of ride I'm going to be in for.
Yeah. Yeah.
That opening scene with Olivia talking down the camera, I wasn't in a cinema. I was watching the screeners that the press team were able to send me. I
Hmm.
leaned in and turned that volume up. what an intense and like such an engaging opening, and she brings it from that moment, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. People very much were like, you sure you want to start with a 4.5 page monologue or an 8 minute monologue, which it ended up being. And I was like, yeah. But I wanted this entire movie is nothing but swings because I'd rather swing and miss than get make a 2.5 star movie on Letterboxd or whatever. Like, no shade to that, but I was like, I just need to like swing. And if people hate it, they hate it. But I was very fortunate to find Olivia to play Joey. And she was actually a really late ad because I had an actress attached for 2 years that developed it with me that dropped out last minute because she got a bigger gig, which is like, no, I mean, it happens. Like, it's you get a lot of money and you can't say no. And so while I was quietly devastated, like my producer put Olivia onto my radar and I wasn't familiar with her work. I watched The Magicians, like just an episode just to make sure she could say words. And then we met and turns out we both have obsessive compulsive disorder and we bonded over that, which is like kind of the whole modus operandi of the film. Like it's like exploring that with these two characters. And I was like, oh, this is great. But then she went off to go do another movie and then she had 5 days of prep. And lo and behold, because the schedule is what it is, the monologue is the first day. And not only is it the first day, but it's the first thing we're shooting of the entire film. And not only is it the first thing we're shooting of the entire film, but the take that we used in the edit was the first one she did.
In one, like what a
In
time.
one. In one. I mean, we did it more times, but it
Yeah.
was like, you watch that, and it's honestly, it's weird because she is dyslexia, which, she says it makes it very difficult to memorize, but there's something about her performance where you're watching it and it's the way she had to memorize it because she can't just like memorize word for word, although ironically she was word for word, is she memorizes in images because it allows her to connect the next thing. So every piece of the puzzle, every furthering of the story, you can literally see Olivia see it. And it's so wild what she was able to capture on her like essentially first performance of Joey ever. Like we did do a read through, we did talk about the characters, but there was no prep. It's an indie film. We have 4 weeks to shoot. I mean, you get maximum like 3 takes. If you're doing a oneer, maybe like that, then you get more. But it's very much like pick up and go. And the fact that she was able to give us such a gift on the first day set such a high bar for the rest of the film, and everybody like could feel that energy like resonating after we got through like what was like essentially a part of the movie that needed to work or people were going to tune out, and she brought it, and I'm so grateful that she was a part of the film. And now I'll work with her forever.
Yeah. I mean, and let's not damn the others with faint
Oh,
praise. Joey
no,
definitely
absolutely
has
not. Oh,
to
I will.
but talk to me about I mean, let's move on and talk about Lou as Brian,
Oh yeah.
our alien.
Yes, Lou's so funny. He's such a chameleon, and he has very odd requests, which I love. At the time, I was like, "Oh no, is this going to be difficult?" And then, but no, Lou's actually diving deep so into the character that, like, while the request seems strange, you're like, "Oh, you're creating this character piece by piece, and you're looking for things to add to your costume and yourself to like make it so when you walk on camera for the first time, you are completely transformed into a different person." So that started with his hair. He wanted to have black hair and he has blonde Jesus hair. And I was like, okay. And then he was like, okay, and I need to be like fit. And I was like, that's not required. He's like, no, but I want to. And I was like, all right, totally. And he's like, and then you got to put me in hip hop dance classes. I was like, absolutely. He's like, and then you have to have a chest hair prosthetic. And I was like, oh, wait, no, we can't do that. It's way too expensive. And he was like, okay, fine, I'll do the other three. And I was like, great. And he put so much effort into the film, into the character. He talks about in press how it was like kind of like a Frankenfurter slash like Willy Wonka hybrid. And then like I took it and was like it's like a childlike sense of joy and hedonism that he kind of emanates. And he I don't know, man, it's just so wild to see him because now he has like short blonde hair and he looks kind of boyish, and in this movie he's like a he's like a sinister Jared Leto-esque character,
Yeah.
which is not was not intentional. But you know, he did all the dances and like the one take that we needed, we did three just to do it. But like Marlene and Jordan also did the same thing. Like, you know, was such a, you know, he had to get his, you know, we had to make like three or four like heads of his, and you know, and had to do like really intense intimacy, and like he had to like come out of boxes that were filled with dirt, like all of this stuff. And he's just game because he, when he commits to something, he commits 100%, and it's very clear that his work paid off.
Yeah, I mean, every penny on those dance classes
I
worth it.
know.
Those
Absolutely
remarkable
worth it.
scenes.
Yeah. Our choreographer did a great job, and it's funny because sometimes people are like, "Where did the dances come from? Where did the tracksuits come from? Where did the sugar-free lemonade powder go from?" And it's like I can make up I can make up something for you, but in reality, I just kind of find it a little funny. And I'm glad that other people found it funny too, because it creates this like, you know, mysticism around Brian with it's like he was like, you know, like put in front of the television and he was only allowed to watch anime and MTV, and like all of a sudden that is the character of Brian.
And wonderful. And you're in the industry, you can't say it, but like he's put this all together. But can you imagine how unbearable Jared Leto would have been in playing this role, John Method?
It wouldn't have, I mean, it wouldn't have worked simply because he's like, you know, he's just the role, right? He's too much like the character. You know, but it
But
is,
yeah,
yeah.
he
Anyway.
puts it together something wonderful. And obviously your other folks, you mentioned Jordan Magdalena as
Yeah.
well. They like
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
huge cast, but every single one of them brings
No,
something
it's yeah,
different.
and yeah. Marlene is an absolute treasure. She's had to cry over a dead body on every Law and Order or like cop show that you've seen for the last 20 years. And she plays every Latino woman's auntie or mother. And I know she can go crazy. She was in my first movie, and I'm like, I take you with me everywhere. And Jordan, I've been such a fan with him of his since Orphan Black, and he's like the brown noser and the goody two shoes on set because that man nails a take once every time, and then we just get to play, and he never forgets his words. Not that like Olivia would roll her eyes. She's like, "That's not all acting is, Addison," and I'm just like, "I know, but you know, Jordan remembers all his lines." But you know, all four of them created, and we had such a fun, like, joyous set because there were no assholes. It was a film by all of us. I am not a dictator, and I am not an auteur. Like, I did not go to film school, so the best idea wins, and so we all kind of created this, you know, athletic like a high that we were all in, and like best idea won, and it was often not from me, it was from my AD or my actors or like a PA or a gaffer or my producer. And you know, it's just like we all had this kind of just like creative primordial ooze, as it were, that to like that where things got to pop up, and I love making movies that way.
And I think it shows on screen, I think, when you have a group of people that have got on well.
Yeah.
I think you can see it in the project and you can see it just talking to you. Now, the fact that you're still willing to talk about the movie this time after you've done your US release, you're about to get some more international coverage as well. Just while
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
talking, my little Outlook box popped up and said, lovely message from Kia at the marketing team saying, "Hey, it's out on Blu-ray and digital on the 4th of May here in the UK."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be putting my hand in my pocket, Addison. I need it on that shelf.
Yeah, and also Hypochondriac, it's a dual box. So it's
Is
both
it?
my first film and my second film, and has all three of my short films that I made and my web series. A ton of extras from Hypochondriac, an exclusive to the UK commentary that I did for myself that's not going to be on our US Blu-ray. Like, it's got a lot. So if you like are interested in me as a filmmaker, it's like that's the box set. I felt like I just did a commercial, but it's like truly like I'm so grateful to Lightbulb for like doing this. Like, you know, it's just like whoa, like you always dream as a filmmaker to see like a physical piece of physical media of your work. And not only do I get it in like the US, but I get it in the UK and I get it in Germany. So there's just like, it's like you're seeing your movie in different like cultures and languages and all this kind of stuff. And it's just so cool because, you know, 25-year-old me who was like sad and eating, you know, like pizza rolls in his studio apartment, smoking cigarettes out the window, like, can you imagine that like I would literally have a piece of physical media of both of my films preserved for when eventually the robots take over the world and I'm in my bunker and I could watch it on my PlayStation 5. So it's nice.
Wow. I mean, now with this additional thing, never apologize for a commercial when you're offering that kind of additional value.
Mm.
That is,
I mean, yeah, it's like, it's like, obviously I haven't made enough movies for a box set yet, but it's like it's pretty damn close because it's
that
every
is
piece of something I've ever made.
that is a wonderful little selection. If I hadn't
Yeah,
already
yeah.
determined to buy that, I would
Yeah.
be straight onto it. And
Yeah,
Editor
yeah.
Ben will make sure the links to that are in the show notes,
Hell
so we
yeah.
can catch up on that. But I mean, let's talk a little bit more about the film. We've talked about the performances. Let's touch on, if we
Yeah.
can, some of the visuals. We won't do
Oh
spoilers
yeah.
in here as well, but again, something I am so appreciative of, especially when we're talking about, we're talking about an independent movie here. You're not looking
Mm.
at the Hollywood millions coming through
Yeah.
there that you can
No,
tell a
no,
full
no.
VFX team to crunch on this and do 50 versions. But you
Yeah, yeah.
do some incredible visual stuff. There is blood and gore. There are alien creatures. There are
Mm.
a lot of things going on.
Hmm.
I didn't feel like you held back on anything.
I love, so the beautiful thing about independent cinema is like I'm not gonna try and make a movie that would cost $15 million or like, for like whatever we made it for. It's like you just don't do that because then the movie's going to be bad. But what you can do and what like a budgetary restriction kind of allows is like your sandbox to be very defined. So when I was writing the movie, I have been watching, like Japanese cinema for years, and I've been learning Japanese for 6 years. And I came across this like very specific section in like Japanese filmmaking in the 60s and 70s called pinku-eiga, which are pink films, which are basically like Japanese exploitation films. They like run the gamut of like what they're about, but the ones that I focused on specifically were the ones about female revenge, stuff like Lady Snowblood and Blind Woman's Curse and Hausu obviously is a big one. And then like I started like surrounding myself with these films, and like then you start like watching stuff like Tokyo Drifter and like or Kuroneko or Onibaba like in black and white, or Jigoku, Ballad of Narayama, Mishima Life in Four Chapters, which was a huge inspiration on the set design. There's basically it's what they did, and also like Female Prisoner. Like there's so many films, and like if you listen to the commentary on the Blu-ray, I go through shot by shot and tell you where the homages are, if you're curious and a nerd like me.
I'm
But
saying that now.
um, I what I was really appreciative of the type of storytelling that these films were kind of doing was they were telling stories theatrically and kind of like shoving off the realism aspect of the fact that you're watching a film that needed to be real. Like they were filmed on theatrical sets. They would do things that, like trans like my favorite thing is in the Ballad of Narayama to 58, the 1958 one, not the 80s one that like one can, but the 58 version. There's like a group of like they're eating dinner. And there's a backdrop that you don't really know is a backdrop. And then they push past the family. The backdrop literally falls to the ground and they're in a new scene. And it's like that shit is so creative. And like we're acknowledging the artifice of filmmaking, but we're also telling a really powerful story. And you can do both. And so when it was like come to time to like create the look of the alien world and the alien tentacles and all that stuff, I'm like, I don't want to spend like millions of dollars doing this visually because this movie is all about touch. This movie is about the tactile nature of touch. So everything in the movie needs to feel tactile. That is the visual, like the special effects done by Russell Effects, Sierra and Josh, who did an incredible job. Like that is like Steph's like production design. That is my cinematographer literally pulling out like different funky versions of like lenses or crystals to put in front to create the effects. So we're doing as much as we can tactilely. And even in the edit, like we're doing like fucking iMovie effects because that was the editing of the time. That was the house suit. That was the way you got around it. And those movies hold up. They're not like a museum piece that like I feel like a lot of people like think about when you think about like movies that are older. But like you look at the thing, you look at Hellraiser, it's like you feel it. It might not look real, but you're not looking for realism. You're looking for something that looks freaky as fuck and feels like you can touch it. And So that was very important to me in the film. And then I got to basically just play in a bunch of like genres, got to do like my little Kurosawa high and low black and white noir moment, like got to exist in the world of my like 240 like anime, like 70s style close up on eyes, like snap zoom style world. And then you get to live in a very real honest place of drama with with our like main aspect ratio and the love triangle slash love quadrangle that is that. So like all those stylistic pieces like then followed like a real tightrope of a tonal walk that is kind of a reference to my relationship with OCD and what it's like to live with OCD. So that kind of all created the style that is Touch Me.
Yeah, and that particular point as well, I think it could be very simple to look at the premise
Hmm.
of the film and what we're talking about and assume what
Yeah,
you're in here is for a popcorn flick, a proper this is just some mad stuff. Not that
yeah.
Troma doesn't have depth, but you wouldn't
No,
but
no.
you could imagine that this is a schlocky, we're gonna do a splatter style movie. But
Yeah.
the depth and the emotional weight, the relationships, the interactions of those relationships that you cover,
Mm,
as well as, I think very effectively, in my opinion,
thank you.
the various neuroses and the various mental struggles that all of your characters go through. And I love
Right.
the description that they talk about, it's just nice that they get to have through the touch of this alien. It's not always the best guy, but it
Yeah.
does shut the noise off for a second, and for a minute, you're not
Yeah.
worried about what the rest of the world is doing, which I think maybe in 2026 more than any year before, people probably resonate with. Because I think even people who
Yeah.
would say they don't have, any type of neurodiversity or mental
Yeah.
hang-ups over, you could be as, absolutely straight down the middle as you want and still, for very justified reasons, feel anxious in 2026. And I think it's a
Oh my
powerful
God.
message.
It's all over the place. And the internet and social media and the news and the billionaires, they all want this, right? They all want us to feel terrible and confused and sticking our heads in the sand. And like that's only just like on the like huge level. And then you get to your interpersonal life that's falling apart. Like no, like if like all that shit was like raining down on me, why wouldn't I want something that literally basically is heroin with no side effects? Like that is the logical next step, right? Because nostalgia or is a drug. And the argument I guess the film eventually makes is that like there is no quick fix, and that sucks, but there is a way forward. um but yeah, it's so funny because there could have been that version, right? Touch Me could have been just like a full-on sexploitation, way more tentacle fucking, way more nudity, way more insanity, but that's not the movie I make. My goal as a filmmaker is to tell queer horror stories, that explore mental illness, and that is my world. And this movie uses the exploitation kind of language to talk about things that are very difficult, things that have happened to me, things that have happened to my actors, things that have happened to people around me. And it is the reason the film exists, right? That's the only way I was going to make this film because that's what I was interested in exploring. And that's why I love horror, because you can get in at the side. But like, the movie's about a friendship breakup. The movie is about a very real friendship breakup that happened to me. And then like realizing I had obsessive compulsive disorder, I sent out to write something that was not one-sided. That was like, I'm gonna look through this as if it's my fault and see where I fucked up. And then you get to the answer at the end, which is like, it's no one's fault, really. Everybody makes mistakes, but the one thing that actually needed to happen was the breakup. And I don't mind spoiling that because that's not really what, you're going to in terms of the spoiler, but it's like, this movie is that, and it's the exploration of that through the lens of, of hip hop dances and, you know, dinosaur nuggets and crazy lighting choices. But that was always the like nugget for me.
Yeah. And, yeah, I think I've said enough to, I'll say it and you'll hear it again that, tremendously effective as far as I was concerned. Like
Thank you.
a formidable piece. I've been thinking about it since I watched it.
Oh, wow.
Really has stuck with me. I think tremendous. My only regret is that I couldn't be at one of those festivals where they screened it live and see it for the first time with an
I
audience.
know, honestly, like seeing that movie in a theater is really, really satisfying as a filmmaker because it's funny. But it's like it's that thing. It's like our midnight screening at Sundance was raucous. Like it was better than our premiere because these people were in for a midnight movie. And that was the thing I'll say. It's like there are some comments on Reddit or YouTube that were like, "Why did you show the whole movie?" And let me tell you, trust me when I say you have not even scratched the surface. Like it is not like, that's what I love about our trailer is because like it doesn't mislead you, but there's like a whole two-thirds of what the movie's truly trying to explore and get you that like you get to discover in the film. And I'm very excited for people to discover it and go on their own journeys.
Yeah, seconded. Yeah, that trailer has nothing on what's coming. And then just before we move off the dialogue and what we're delivered as well, we've talked depth, we've talked, the deeper meaning behind it. You mentioned it just then. Like it's funny and it's so hard to put
Mhm.
a finger on this. One, we say it when it doesn't land for us. Comedy's hard. It's
It is.
really hard.
Yeah.
And again, to me, I was laughing. I found this movie very entertaining. But the thing that struck me is when I said it to Ben when we were talking about it, the way the dialogue works as well. I've seen people who are tremendously decorated writers, and then I
Mm-hmm.
watch a film and I'm like, this is like a stage play, but it isn't one.
Right.
Or
Mm.
particularly with the Netflix mandated style of writing, which is
Mm.
make sure they're explaining to this in case they're not looking at a screen,
Yeah. Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
bits of dialogue that you get where he goes, "Oh, I can tell that you are writing teenagers, but you are a guy in your 40s." There are
Yeah. Yeah.
there are
Oh
so
yeah.
many of these things that take you out of it, and then there are few films that I have seen in recent years. Like name a couple that were kind of on that same level. Apopheniacs, which I'm not sure if you've seen yet, which is
Mm.
great.
No, not
Um,
yet. Yeah.
oh, they need to get distributed. It is tremendous. But the when you watch these things, the sharpness of that dialogue, the
Yeah.
authenticity of the voices, like
Yeah.
it feels like you can tell when something is written from experience and knowledge and from taking that care to say this is how people really talk to their friends.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's true, right? And I think sometimes it was like I remember like, not that I'm like I listen, I'm a millennial. I'm not going to apologize for it. I am what the Gen Z could call maybe cringe, and that's okay because I grew up. This is no shit on Gen Z, but in terms of like I grew up being shamed for every one of my fucking choices. I got shamed for liking NSYNC when I was in fifth grade. I got shamed for liking to sing, having my voice too high. I grew up in Catholic school. I was told that every single thing that I liked was gay, faggot shit, not cool, you name it. I literally bought a guitar. It was shiny blue, and I was like, I love this. And everybody made fun of me for it. So I sold it and got a black one because I couldn't handle it. And then, of course, the bullshit is we get to college and everyone's like, oh, yeah, I liked NSYNC. Oh, that guitar is cool. Oh, yeah, you can sing to your heart's content. And you're just like, where did we all decide to pretend that like we all had to like AC/DC in seventh grade and I had to play sports? Like it's just so insane to me. And so when it comes to, like creating art, it's just like I like fuck it. There are really terrible things about our generation. There are really great things about our generation. There are really terrible things about me, and there are really terrible like good things about me. We contain all these multitudes, and like this was an exploration of just like fucking unlikable cringe millennial fuck ups that I love because they are sad and broken and understandable and go through a journey. And it's just like, and not only on that tab, but you do it this like weird fucking kind of morose dark humor way, which was completely aided with like Jess Weber, my editor's wonderful editing, and of course the actors. And my dialogue is cute. But like I like that is to me like the stuff that I always want because it's like in the hyper specificity of the worlds that people create, you find the universality. Because it's like what Greg Araki does with his films, which is why I love them so much. Is you look at Nowhere, you look at Kaboom, you look at Mysterious Skin, you look at his show now Apocalypse, and it is a world that is his own. Like, of course, it's influenced by, his Gen X upbringing, but he creates his own vocabulary, he creates his own production design, he creates his own world, but it's so specific that you're able to just like put yourself in that world, in that box, and just be like, yes, I'm in. I understand it. I can see it, even if I'm not necessarily from this place. And those are my favorite movies to watch. That's how we garner empathy when like you see something so specific. Like as a gay white dude, like I can identify with any other culture, creed, gender, because at the end of the day, we are, and you can see this when you watch the entire world that is horror. We are a lot more similar than you think that you are. Like we are. And the differences are actually what makes us more interesting to view because you get to learn something and understand how other people deal with the same issues you're dealing with.
I couldn't have said it better, Addison. I will not try. That is, yeah, like what, yeah, what a, what a journey, and what a time to be making films.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to asking my last question. I think the hardest thing I'm gonna have to do is making one choice at the very end. But
Yeah.
before we get to that, so in the US, Touch Me is it's you've done with festivals, you've had it, so it's available digitally in the US already. You can pick it up
Y-
at your
Yes.
we're all
Not
good
not
Vista
not
stores.
not physical media yet. That'll come, I think, in July. And it'll be on Shudder in the US in like June, but right now it's available to rent, on the Apple and the Amazon and all the other corporate overlords that require us to use their services to make money.
Perfect. Get it to VOD then, and they're all
Yeah.
hang out for Shudder,
Yeah.
a wonderful
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
Uh, so and again, those over on my side of the Atlantic, take advantage. 4th of May, we're getting it over here. You
Yeah.
could be first. Stick it to friends and
Yeah.
rivals across the sea by picking this up early. Addison, what is next for you? Back on the horse? Back to another one?
I'm in the process of writing something new right now. I've already said this, so I don't feel like it's a spoiler, but I'll give you like one of my projects, which, could go, could not go, who knows, is about a gay couple in purgatory that are told that the only way to get to heaven is to go through couples therapy. And that's like a very much like Dark Crystal Muppet Jim Henson style world with a lot of blood, a magic mirror as a therapist, two puppet musical numbers, and a wise old stump. And I won't say more than that because it's that's already insane. And the other one, all I'll say about it is like if Rosemary's Baby was met with World of Warcraft. And so those are the two projects that I'm working on. Obviously, all queer, all to do with mental illness, and hopefully entertaining and fun.
I mean, my goodness, people listening. I know if you're thinking what I'm thinking, well, one of two things. They said Denver was their friend in a whole lot more because he was a dinosaur. It wasn't an implication on their relationship. Number two, my goodness, this guy can pitch. Like if you're a producer, get your checkbook out. Come on. Let's get these things made.
Oh, please. Yeah, I need to make another movie or I'll die of irrelevancy in my sad couch that is needing to be replaced because my cats have destroyed it. But yeah, anyway, that's what I'm working on.
Amazing. So exciting. Right, before I let you go and enjoy the
Yeah,
lovely sunshine out there, one final question for you.
yeah,
We, of course, do a podcast called The Horror Hangout. We talk about movies, and now you are a renowned horror film director. So the pressure's going to turn to you. Your friends are going
okay.
to get on and they can say, Addison, it's horror movie night. We're inviting ourselves to your house. You've seen a lot of these. You're going to choose what movie we're going to watch.
Okay.
Given that extensive watch list we've covered, you've done irreparable damage to my watch list today. I don't mind saying that. But what I'll allow you a double feature if you wish. What two movies are you going to show a mixed crowd that come into your house and they're going to be judging your taste?
The Wailing for sure. Korean film. That's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And then I'm just gonna go like full, like glasses up, whatever. So it's gonna be a double feature with The Wailing, and I count this as a horror, Stranger by the Lake,
Okay.
which French a Hitchcockian thriller set on a cruising beach. Fantastic. And then if you don't want to do that, fine, let's watch the Blair Witch Project because that's my favorite horror movie ever.
We can like the volumes of films you've covered. I'll make an exception. You can have three. They can
Yeah,
be
yeah,
they
thank
can
you.
we can start
Yeah,
early or finish late. That's how we'll get them all done.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Incredible. Wonderful chatting to you today, Addison.
You as
Thank you
well.
for coming
Yeah.
to see me. If you're listening to this, whichever country you're in, you can either pick yourself up a copy of Touch Me digitally or physically if you're on the right side
Yep.
of the Atlantic. Um, Thank you for everyone for listening along and joining us today. Thanks for Taj Easton for making our wonderful theme music. Thanks to our corporate overlords over at Acast for hosting the show. I will see you all next time. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye bye.